So I went back to my list and I added a little bit. I added United States. You'll notice that that's on 2 lines. You're going to see that in the visualizer here in a second. Sometimes you have things where data is going to be bigger than a line of code. So the reason that Python can understand it on 2 lines is the line ends with a comma, so it knows that it has to be continued on the next line. So let's actually go through and run the visualizer and walk through this and see what we've done with our list at this point. The first thing I'm going to do is there's this tiny little markup here. I'm actually going to drag the output a little bit bigger, so because we have a bunch of print statements here. Now you're going to notice that the little red arrow moves from line 1 to line 2. We haven't created anything, and it goes back to line 1 because it says, oh, I finally found all of the pieces of line 1 now. And finally, I've got a visualization of we the people of these United States. And I'm going to print that out, and we get our first list printed out. A nice thing to note about printing a list is it prints it just like it's in the code with the square brackets around it. But you'll notice that it thinks that every element is a string, and we should quote the strings with single quotes. So the fact that the original had some double quotes in it and some single quotes is gone when it prints that out. So this is its representation of a list when it prints stuff out. Now, if you want to add to the end of a list, you can append to a list. So I'm going to add in. You'll notice our visualizer now has a 7th element in it. And I'm going to print it out, and we see that, yeah, we've got a 7th element in there. And then I'm going to insert at 0. Insert at 0 is actually going to insert before the 0th element. So you need to know that an insert, when you do it, that number is the position before that. So when we do that, we're going to get the capital W inserted as a new 0th element, and everything else moved over. So if you want to insert some data at the beginning of a list, you just keep inserting at 0 forever. Now, if I wanted to insert right after the first element, I would do an insert 1. And that would be insert before the upper lowercase w. There's also a way to do an insert at the end. But we already have one way of doing an insert at the end. We can always do an append. Now, how do we remove elements? There's 2 ways. First of all, remove basically says if I know what the element is I want to get rid of, I could just remove that element. There's another way to do that, but let's try the remove method, and you'll notice that the upper lowercase w is now gone, and the list shrinks up, closes up, and that one is out of the list. So when I print it this time, hopefully we have, yes, just the capital W and the people of these United States. Now, you can also delete by position. It's really important here to notice that the syntax has suddenly changed. Instead of saying list dot, which says, take this list, call this function called remove or insert or append, delete is actually an operator in the language that says that for a list, I may want to do something special with it. And when I delete, I give it a range in square brackets, starting with position 3, stopping before position 4 in the list. That's what the 3:4 is. Delete that element. Now, if we go over here and look at 3, we've got starting at position 3, before position 4, so of should disappear. And we took out of. So whenever you want to delete just one and you know the position, you give it the subscript of the position that it's going to be at, and one larger, and it deletes it. Now, you can also delete the entire end of the list this way. Now, remember, my list has changed. Of is gone. So now 3 is these United States in. I'm going to print this out, okay, but then I'm going to delete everything from 3 to the end of the list. 3: I'm not specifying. Whatever the end of the list is out there, whether it's 5 elements or 5 million, and yes. So if I know the position I want to truncate a list at, I can just delete at that position to the end. And we'll print that out, and we just have the 3 things in it.